We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break.
What's that you said coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you.
And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome everybody to NUFC Matters and the Joe Allon Show. Today I've got a specialised guest in a specialised position. It's great to welcome one of my good friends, Kevin Carr. Carsy, how are you doing? It's great to see you.
Thank you. How are you, man?
Very, very good, man. Very good. Kev, you played for the club for just under 10 years, right? 9.5 seasons. I want to get into this straight away. Does it ever rankle you? Does it ever rankle you that you never got a testimonial? Because if there was ever a player that was deserving of a testimonial, and I mean, I've known you now, I've just worked out, it's over 40 years since I made my debut with you and the team. And you were at the club long before I was, you know, and we're still talking rubbish about football. I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it, when you think about it?
It is, and there were the days that if you were sort of loyal to a club, the only way you ever made any money was through having a game after a certain time. 10 years was obviously the figure that came up and had come up before. And it was disappointing. I needed another contract probably. That would have taken me over the 10 years quite easily. But that didn't happen as we've seen, and you know, life goes on. But what it did, it hurt very much at the time, especially the way we found out. You know, I found out through, well, I think Chris Waddle had spoken to someone, John Richardson, who used to write for the Journal, and Chris rang me up and said, look, there's going to be something in the Journal tomorrow. Richardson's got a hold of the fact you're getting it free. And I didn't know a thing, and sure enough, there it was the following day in the Journal. I hadn't been told anything, not spoken to, and then when I did make sort of an inquiry about it, it was true, and that was it. And then you get a little letter from I think it was Russell Cushion at the time, secretary, wasn't it? You get a little letter with 6 lines on. Thanks very much for your time, but we will not be required anymore. There you go. Thanks very much.
It's amazing, Kev, when you think about it. I mean, nobody ever prepares you. I mean, we thought playing professional football was the best job in the world, and it really was the best job in the world. I mean, to get paid to play in football, but you never ever think it's going to run out. You never think it's going to go away. And I mean, I suffered more than most, you know, with my mental health and whatever, because nobody ever tells you it's going to go away, you know, and it was like a bereavement. But for you having to be at the club for over 9.5 years, I mean, I find it abysmal, you know, especially being a goalkeeper and being so loyal. But, you know, life's got to go on, Kev. How? I mean, it'll interest a lot of the people watching. How did you manage with life? You've got a wife and 2 kids then. We're not on the 100 grand a week that they're on nowadays, and they're being able to retire to a life of luxury.
Yeah,
I mean, how did you manage to get a vocation?
Well, I obviously left Newcastle and then went to sign for Carlisle, and then had a bit of time on loan at Middlesbrough, Darlington, and then finished off with John Bird at Hartlepool for a year. And that took me to 30, and then you think, well, the decision then's got to be made, one way or the other. And I had a few mates who were in the police force. And they suggested that might be an option. There certainly wasn't any coaching options then. Back in, I think this would be probably 87, 88. Certainly no goalkeeping coaches at the time, specialised anyway. So I made the decision there, and obviously with Karen here and having the kids, I hadn't won Nicky at the time. That at 30, that decision had to be made to finish playing football and take up a new employment and a new vocation and join the police, which went very well for me, I have to say, John. I'm not in any way disappointed in the decision I made at the time. It was probably one of the only ones I could have made, to be fair.
All right, mate. We want to come to how you started at Burnley, Kev. I mean, back in the day, Northumberland especially, I mean, the Northeast obviously being known for the hotbed of soccer as it had throughout the years with the great players that we had. They had a massive catchment area, Burnley Football Club, in Northumberland especially. And you actually started at Burnley. Tell us about how you went to Burnley.
Well, it's still your dream to play for your home club, which was Newcastle. But Newcastle at the time, as a kid, as a junior, they used to have training on a night time. I think it was twice a week or whatever it was, which meant getting from Ashington to Benwell in them days, it was like one bus after school, one bus into town, another bus up the West End, train, another bus back from Benwell into town, and then back home. You wouldn't be getting home until, well, probably last bus. And I'm tried that. Then you've got the likes of playing junior football. I mean, I could only play in goal when I was 11, Joe. That's the only position, because I had a asthma, the illness, when I was a kid and couldn't run at all. So the only position I could play and wanting to play was in goal. So you know that the story about, you know, the last pig gets stuck in goal. It wasn't that case. I was still a little fat kid, you know what I mean? But it was a case of playing through junior football, and scouts would be there every week, just as they are now, and they would come and have a chat. And I think Leicester was the first club I ever went to as a kid when I was 12, I think, or 12 or 13, and then Burnley became involved. And then when you see as you mentioned, the contact that we had with the Northeast, the manager was from Ashington, Jimmy Adamson. Chief Scout was from East Cheverton, Dave Blakey. There were about 5 or 6 Geordie lads in the first team then, I think. Rhea Hankin, Derek Parker, and people like that. Dave Logie was there. There was a good few there, Johnny, as he said, out there. The Northeast was very well represented as far as Burnley went. But in saying that, Burnley for want of a better word, is kind of the arse end of the earth to get to be fair. It used to be a nightmare. You were trains, Newcastle, York, Leeds, to a place called Todmorden, which is still in Yorkshire. Then somebody had to pick you up there and drive you back to Burnley. It was a nightmare. And that I was only there 6 months. No, sorry, 4 months. God, I was terribly homesick. 16 years, 16-year-old. First time away. First time with Ashton, probably. I'd never been on holiday. Hardly barely been across the Tyne Bridge before then. So to suddenly up and away, and I became very homesick and came back. I mean, there is a tale there if you want to hear it. I was sitting on it. I was due back on the Sunday. I had to leave the bus, Ashton on the bus on the Sunday afternoon, into the town, walk to Central, jump on a train, as I say, York, Leeds, Tottenham. So I got on the train, and for some reason, the train, we got to Darlington, and the train stopped, and was stopped for 5 or 6 minutes. And I'm sitting there, and I'm reading the Pink and reading about Newcastle's game and this and the other. And I just looked across the platform, and there's a train on the opposite platform, obviously going the other way. So I thought, that's it. And I looked, and I read, and I looked back at the paper, and then I thought, bollocks, I'm up. So I got up, got my bag, jumped off that train straight across the platform, jumped onto the other platform, and got the train back to Newcastle. Never to be seen in Burnley again. All my gear was down there. Had to get that brought up. But I just couldn't do it.
And then how did they have your registration, or how did you get the Newcastle United after that? I was an
apprentice there, so I mean, I did 5 months or 6 months of the chores. I mean, those in themselves nowadays, you just wouldn't be. I know we've discussed it before, like picking tab ends out the bath when they came in after training. I mean, most of us in the internationals sitting in a bath having a tab and clearing the pitch and sweeping the stands and getting it. You got yourself a couple of quid on a Monday after a home game with all the cash lying about on the steps. Glorified labour, but you got a bit of an education as far as football went. It was good, and they were a great club. I still have an admiration for Burnley a little bit, But they were tough days. So then I came back. I was pretty fed up. And there's a guy called Les Common, who was Jackie Milburn's brother-in-law.
Yeah,
lovely lad, Les, who was the scout. He came to see me and said, "Look, if you fancy, come through and have a go and a trial." And so I think I was there for about 2 or 3 weeks and signed straight away.
Who would have been your manager, Kev?
It was then Gordon Lee was the manager then. But he didn't have much to do with the signing. It was Chief Scout? Len Richley. There was a fella called Len Richley who was Chief Scout, who was some local and characters. So when you look way back, some real characters there. But I did about 2 weeks trial and then signed on straight away as a junior pro. So no more cleaning boots and sweeping stands, which was great.
That's brilliant. So who would have been the goalkeepers in your first time at Newcastle United? Who'd been in the first team?
Willie was still there. Willie McFall was still literally either had just finished or was in the process of sort of making that transition from playing to a bit of coaching, or still being involved with the club. And then it became Mick Mahoney. Roger Jones came from Blackburn, and then Steve Hardwick. Steve Hardwick was there, but Mick mainly. Mick was the guy who had the sort of the jersey for a while. Steve would be then coming in as number 2, and then sort of me hanging around 3. So they got rid of Gordon Lee. Gordon Lee had gone. Richard Dennis had been and gone. And it was Bill McGarry then, who was there actually when I made my debut. That was 77.
Who was that against, Kev, your debut?
Debut, Queen's Park Rangers, 12th of December, 1-1-0. Stuart Robertson scored off his butt. It hit him on the backside and went in the goal, and we won 1-0.
So that, I'm
So-
working out now. If that was
All that.
70, I'm working out if that was 77. That's obviously that's a good. That's 47 years ago.
7 years ago, mate. Aye. Yeah,
47 years ago. My God, that's magnificent.
yeah.
And did you
Well,
claim the jersey after that, Kev? Were you number one choice then?
Bro, I didn't try and get a jump. You can't get a jumper off much after a game, when you no. You would-
We know
you-
about Alec Much. We know about Alec Much.
Oh God, you would have to pay for it.
Did I ever tell you that one about Muchy when I went for treatment one day
with a dog,
and I had to wait for an hour? I waited for an hour because there was a greyhound getting treatment on the treatment table before me.
Renowned for it. Treatment, it was heat or ice. You either get the heat lamp on, you get the ice on.
That was it.
Get on,
Brilliant. So establishing yourself in the side then, Kev, obviously, who was the characters in the team that time? We're in the second division, were we not?
First division then.
First division?
Yeah. I mean, Malcolm had just gone, I think. But he was there when I first got there, obviously. But then you had the Scottish contingent, John Blackley, John Brownlee, John Connolly, Jim Pearson. They sort of all arrived at once. Birdie and Pat Howard was still there, Terry Hibbert. I mean, just great characters and great fellas, really. Nothing and no airs and graces about anybody. You just got Jeff Nutley would be captain, Mickey Burns. And players like that, really good side at the time, Joe, to be fair. Then a lot of them left through McGarry, I think. I think a lot of them couldn't. Tommy Cass as well, poor Tom. Tommy was about, but again, once Bill McGarry had taken over, they found it tough. Especially having had Richard Dennis before that, where they always got their labelled with the fact that they were running the club and not Dick. So that's where that came from. But it was. Then we got relegated 77, so that's when we ended up back in the second 77, 78, back in the second division.
When was the likes of Shoulder and whatever and Peter Cartwright coming into the team then? So,
that sort of time, Joe. Yeah, definitely that sort of time. Steve Carney, Allon, Peter, I think all came with Bill McGarry. A lot of Nigel Walker.
Yeah.
God, these are lads who have passed away, Joe. We're talking really sad. Yeah. But yeah, there was a lot of local lads playing in the side then, sort of naturally, because I think they were struggling for cash even then, so there wasn't any huge amount of transfer money being paid.
So were you establishing yourself then as first choice under Bill McGarry?
No, mate. I played about seven or eight games in that first division, but as I said, we were sort of struggling at the bottom end of the league. And as a young kid, I did let a goal in for 2 games. We beat QPR, then beat Wolves 4-0 at home the following week. And then it kind of went steadily sort of downhill from individually for me as a young lad. And when you keep getting beaten, you keep, it's a little bit soul destroying. So I got left out again. I think when it was when Steve was fit or Mick was back being fit. Because you could only have one goalie then. There weren't any goalie subs either. You couldn't put anybody on the bench. So Steve got back in, and it was a while before a good season and a half till Bill McGarry got sacked, and then Arthur turned up, which was sort of my saviour, as it were, then.
Mm-hmm. I know. I can remember as a schoolboy, Kev. Obviously, I was at the club when you were there, and we were like 9, 10, coming in on school holidays and training, whatever. And I always remember there was a placard in the town, not far from the bus stop. And I remember, because it'll always stick with us. Like, it's funny. There was a manager at Bristol City called Alan Dix. And he'd been a long-term manager at Bristol City. And obviously Arthur was manager at Chesterfield. And they'd been linked with this Alan Dix. And then Arthur's name was there when Bill McGarry got sacked. And I always remember the placard. It must have been one of Gibbo's John Gibson must have wrote it,
Yeah.
because on the placard it said, Dick's out, Cox in. I mean,
Yeah.
make what you want out of that, but that was the placard in the middle of the town, which was incredible.
Try writing it now, you'd get shot, wouldn't you?
Not on this channel, not on this channel. So
no.
Arthur come, Kev, and basically he was pretty much galvanised with transforming the club in his foresight, and obviously he's give you the number 1 jersey straight away, and he started building a team, and this obviously they're signing that shock football, if you like. Still to this day, Kevin Keegan signing for Newcastle United. Where were you, and how did you feel when you're thinking, wow, I'm going to be playing with Kevin Keegan?
Well, he for a start off, Arthur, he always had a vision, and his thought was way ahead of his time, I think, for how we were, and how English football was. He'd always go on about emerging nations and teams and countries, like African countries, Middle Eastern countries, and players who were excellent players who he had obviously heard of and seen, but hadn't signed. We didn't have anybody at the club, and I don't think anybody did at the time. But his foresight was way ahead. And we kind of got it was 83, so he came probably 80, I think, Arthur, and then I played. He gave everybody a fresh chance. There wasn't anybody particularly going to be favourite or not. And I was playing well at the time and got in, continued to play well, right through those 2 seasons before. I think I was player of the year twice, I think, because I was getting the most to do, Joe, to be honest. So I was seeing a lot of action. And then 83, yeah, I think it was. I remember this plain as day, because obviously I got injured then. We were in Madeira on a pre-season tournament. Yeah. Again, I'm playing really well. We had been away to Germany. We're playing in somewhere else pre-season. And we ended up in Madeira for just before the season started for a little tournament against, there was 3 clubs, including, I think, Maritimo, who were in the Portuguese league. It was their home ground. And the night before our last game, Arthur hadn't travelled, so we knew there was something going on, because for him to miss either a trip or miss a game, we'd heard the rumours, and then obviously that came through. But at the time, the night before that, I had accidentally gone through the patio window of a hotel room and slashed my arms, both arms.
That was a total accident, wasn't it? There wasn't any drinking involved in that.
Yeah, I'd gone through, the day before a game, and everybody was saying, you must have been pissed and had a drink. No, absolutely not. No, it was just I don't know, one of them
freaks.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I'd gone through the door once, came back through, turned.
I remember.
And I just kicked the bottom of the glass on the patio door. The bottom fell out, and the top bit came down like a guillotine, really.
On your arm?
Just on my arm. So
I remember.
Both arms. So that was on the Wednesday, I think. We got back on the Thursday, and then actually Kevin signed that day. And then we had all that, with his first game, QPR, which I missed. That's one of the most gutting days I've had to have missed that. What a day that was. Obviously you're involved in the changing rooms and after, but not to play was a massive blow.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take before you got back into the team, Kazi? Because I remember you playing quite a few games that season.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I got back in. I think it was before Christmas anyway. You're never out long. It was Coxey's thing was, you couldn't be injured. He used to come to the treatment room every morning. He wouldn't come in. He'd poke his head in the door, and his famous comment was, "I'm only interested in the living, not the dead." Mm-hmm. That's how he was. And you had poor little Fizz at the time, Ian Liversedge, remember little Ian? Mm-hmm. he was on a high to nothing basically. But I got back in, I think, just before Christmas.
I mean, the team was like, obviously in Newcastle United history, you've got the people that have got the favourite team from the 50s, the FA Cup, superb winning side 3 times. You've got the first cup team of the 60s. You've got obviously the entertainers, but my favourite team was obviously your team of promotion season, 83-84. Just and the amount, like you're saying, about the vision that Arthur had in bringing together not only Chris Waddle, Kevin Keegan, with Terry McDermott, Dave McCreary, yourself, Ando, Jeff Clark, honestly, the whole squad, and I apologise for missing any one of them out, but then to get the missing piece of the jigsaw, which was the wonder stroke ever for me, to bring Peter Beardsley to the football club was just absolutely astounding bit of business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think as Kevin says when he speaks, I think they were looking for some big centre forward, I think, and then obviously Peter signed, who was just quite a little impish sort of player. But my God, I mean, he is without doubt the best player I've seen. Haven't trained with him. Brilliant. Haven't had the pleasure of training with him for years. And I think a lot of people would expect to say Keegan, but Keegan, for separate reasons, he was a grafter. And everything he got, he grafted for. And obviously I knew, because I had to stay behind and face a shooting practice for the extra sort of half hour afterwards. But Peter was a different class altogether. He's what he did and how his mind worked was just, I'm not even sure he knew what he was going to do, Joe, to be honest. And we had that old gym at Burnley, you know, with a rock hard floor and the brick walls. He used to stop off every 5 minutes, and he did tricks in there that were incredible.
He used to score goals by hitting the ball off the one of the walls to hit into
the everything. I know, like, you can't do that on a Saturday, can you? But he said, well, yeah, but who's bothered? This isn't Saturday, so if I can score off a wall, I will. And he did.
Magician.
It was absolute, yeah, best player by.
And obviously, and also you had Chris Waddle as well, Carsey.
What the enigma? Honestly, he was great as well. I used to room with little Kenny Wharton, and Waddle used to room with Carney, Steve, God love him, and we were close as a four, because he used to put all the beer in my bag for a waitress. The great bag was subsequently became the beer bag, because we used to go to London on the train. There was no flying in them days, so we got to London on the train, and on the way back, obviously we were in the front of the train. But a big lad from Darlington with a wooden leg who just used to stand in the doorway to stop anybody getting in, especially where we got beat. And he got a couple of sandwiches and stuff and got off at Darlington. So we only had 40 minutes to suffer from Darlington to Newcastle. But then my bag used to get filled with beer because it was a dry train, because it was a supporters train. And I never got as far as searching my glove bag. I used to find 2 or 3 pairs of gloves on the platform, because you've got to get rid of something to get the beer in, you know. But they were good days. But Waddler was, he was some character. He used to get picked on. Arthur used to give him some, to be fair, Arthur gave everybody some stick, but especially Waddler. But again, I think that's because he could see the talent that he had and he was trying to get the best out of him, whichever way he could.
You talk about Arthur there, Kev, you know, I mean, how he just, in your mind and the influence he had, especially on me. I'm playing for Brentford one day, and he's manager of Derby. And I've scored a hat-trick, and we're getting beat 4-3. And their centre-half's lying on the floor, and he had the audacity to put his chest on my boot as I was walking over him, you know. And all I heard from the dugout was, "Joseph, don't cheat, son." And I went, "Sorry, Gaffer, sorry." And I'm looking at him in the dugout, and my manager, I'm record signing of this club, Brentford Football Club, and I'm looking at Arthur and saying, "Sorry, Gaffer," and my manager's looking at me and thinking, shaking his head and thinking, what the hell is he on about? Shaking his head at him, you know.
Yeah.
And that he had that much on you, didn't he, Arthur? He had that
He was-
much respect. We had that much respect for him.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you only ever had 1 year contracts. I think the most I got a 2-year contract towards the end. But it was always you're in at the end of the season. And I mean, even before that, before you got established, we all used to get pulled into the home changing rooms at Newcastle, into the home dressing room, sit around the dressing room and get called in one at a time in the office. We had to go out the home changing room along the corridor, and the manager's office was on the right-hand side, and you were in there. And it wasn't even a case of arguing anything. There it is. This is what you're getting. There's a year's contract. You might have got a, I don't know, 20 quid rise. And if you didn't sign it, you were off. I remember a lad, poor lad, Allon Guy used to play with Jack lad. Allon. Asked Bill McGarry for more money. He says, if you're not going to pay us any more, I'm off. He says, right, there's the door, son, you know, off you go. Well, no arguing. And then you had to walk back through the changing room, either with trying to keep the smile off your face because you've been given a contract, or, you know, like the disappointment in having been released, because it used to happen. But Arthur was a one-on-one, and my last thing with him was, I think I got offered, in them days, it was 1,500 quid to sign on for 2 years. That was the only 2-year contract I had. And we're sitting in his office, and I said, yeah, fine, you would have done anything, taken anything. And he said, right, because you hadn't argued, I'll give you an extra 250 quid. So I came up there like 250 quid more than what I'd been given. And you know what? I would have absolutely run through a brick wall for him that day, because he'd think he had given you something extra. Whether it'd only be 250 quid, but it just made you feel just unbelievable. And I said, that's it, I'm fine with that. And off we went. So that was a sort of measure of how he was. Not saying he wouldn't try and get you as cheap as he could, because of course he would.
Yeah.
And us local lads, you wouldn't be involved in any big sort of transfer deals anyway. So that's how it was then. But just great time though.
Fabulous way to just finish the first half, Kev. Thanks for joining in the second half. We're going to have some messages for you from our very, very kind sponsors at NUFC Matters. Thank you. Cheers, Kev.
Okay.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to United Group Travel, who are our fanzine sponsors. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew driver and courier, a local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Website is www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. You can find them at media-arts.co.uk. And a big thanks to Sport Social. You can find them at sport-social.co.uk, where we are now available as an audio podcast. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, then please hit the subscribe button under this video today. Hit the thumb up to like the channel and click share to share your other social media. We've got a few events coming up in the run-up to Christmas and after New Year. The NUFC Matters Christmas party takes place at Tyneside Irish Centre in aid of Newcastle's Cat and Dog Shelter. Tickets are £10 from newcastlelegends.com. The event takes place Saturday the 28th of December, 7 to 11, and our special guests are Nobby Solano and Joe Allon. The long stands will be at the Clooney in aid of the Newcastle Cat and Dog Shelter. Tickets are from the Clooney themselves or newcastlelegends.com, and tickets are priced at £15. Peter Beardsley will be at the Irish Centre, and that is on the 10th of January. Doors are 7 o'clock, and tickets are from newcastlelegends.com. You can also buy some tickets for that event at Woucher. And there is an evening with the entertainers on the 24th of January 2025. Box office is 0191 243 1171, or the website Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk for tickets. And Lee Clark is at the Gateshead Leisure Centre on the 31st of January. You can contact Gateshead Leisure Centre direct for those tickets. Don't forget as well, Will Scott's book on the entertainers is selling well and is available from newcastlelegends.com or from the Backpage shops in Newcastle and the Metro Centre and from Amazon.
Kev, I want to get straight back onto the Kevin Keegan Roadshow. I mean, what was it like for you as a down-to-earth local lad? And you've got Kevin Keegan, Terry McDermott, and I mean that forward line of Keegan, Beardsley, Waddle, everywhere you went, it must have been like a circus. It was like the Pied Piper, unbelievable.
Yeah, well, very much just along for the ride. You just jump on the bus and stay on there as long as you can. It was just a terrific time. First season, obviously, we didn't manage to get the promotion, but then the following season we made it, and but everyone just wanted a piece of Kevin. Really, it was everywhere you went, most games, end of season tours, pre-season tours. It was astonishing, really, the amount of stuff we ended up. I think we played in Japan. I think went to the Japan Cup the end of the first season. So we had a week in Malaysia, a week in Thailand, and I think a week in Japan to finish off. And everywhere we went, it was, they want a piece of him, they want him TV, they want him for interviews, and he did every single thing you could wish for, and it was a great ambassador for the club at the time. I mean, he was being handsomely paid for it at the time for it, but that didn't have any rankle at all with any of the players as far as I was concerned. They were just glad to see he was there.
I mean, I often say he didn't just transform Newcastle United, Kev, he transformed the whole of the North East. I mean, they all ended up getting grounds and everything.
The thing we had with the breweries, they sponsored the club, but they sponsored Kevin as well when he was there. And I remember the end, he used to do talk-ins at various social clubs, and we used to get around the social clubs, connecting with the breweries on a Tuesday night, and great. And on the last Sunday of either every 6 weeks, we used to have a soccer days at Burnley. Well, during that month, obviously the fellas would be at the club or the mams, and they would win on the back of the beer mats. Would be a competition, which if they won, they got invited to meet at the breweries first. Then the buses would take them up to Benwell and then bring them back to the breweries, have like a party time there, and then that was it. But various games set up around the whole training field at Benwell, and then we'd finish off with a game where we'd all get dressed up in fancy dress and lions and bears and everything else, and go out and play these games on a Sunday. And man, honestly, I remember bumping into Declan Donnelly, and we were in a pub in Killingworth. This was a few years ago, and I was just about to say, obviously, charity games that we played in, and he turned to me, he says, "I remember you from the soccer days we used to have." He was there as a kid. Fantastic. Did you enjoy it? He says, "Oh, they were absolutely great." And again, that's all down to Kevin's foresight, the brewery's foresight for taking them on in the first place. But as you say, it wasn't just the club; it's a community as well, which he was great for.
He was absolute superstar as a player and a person, wasn't he? I mean, he was just so humble. I mean, me being an apprentice at the time, being in awe of Kevin Keegan, but just so down to earth. What a man! What a man! But your best memories, Kev? Sorry, go on.
I'm trying to get a light.
Is your light gone off? This is why it's live, everybody. It's great.
Hello.
He hasn't paid the electric bill. There you go. There's lights in Bedlington.
Well, hey.
There you go. You're back. What was your memories of the special games in promotion year, Kev? I remember one. You played at home against Man City, and it was about 5, and Pedro was absolutely unplayable.
Yeah. I was in. I think. Well, the second year, that second season again, I missed the first bit because I broke my arm at Leeds, first game of the season, where I think it was there Waddler went in net and Ando scored, or Ando went in net and Waddler scored, one of the two. I think it was Ando who scored. And I think Waddler might have gone in goal. Yeah, we beat Leeds 1-0, first game of the season, but I broke my arm and didn't play for half a season. Martin was there then, Martin Thomas, who came and played that, certainly half. So from there, the second half of the season, again, was touch and go, really, because we didn't storm the league. We weren't miles ahead. I think we went up third, I think. Or even maybe, was it third or was it 4? Anyway, but that again, but when you're getting close, and then obviously we had the game against Carlisle that we won 5, where it was a penalty save, and then straight up the field and scored the third goal to make it 3-0, which was a Keegan goal, and then on from there. And the last few games were just crazy. And obviously he had announced he's retiring, which made him even more sort of special. And again, I think the last game was Brighton at home. Yeah, we beat Brighton 3-1. That was basically fantastic. His chip over Joe Corrigan, who was a beast, Big Joe, and chipped them from just outside the box. I mean, it was just unbelievable to think when you were actually there and playing. But yeah, and then, I mean, we didn't start getting changed that day, about 20-3. There was so much going on. So you literally into your gear and out and played the game. And then the helicopter actually after that for his farewell.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
I remember it was yesterday, Kev, being around the dressing room, obviously putting the kit out for you all and what have you, and it was just unbelievable. Yeah. Did that culminate then in your consecutive clean sheets that you had for the club? Because that's still a record this day.
I think that was in the time before that, Joe, probably, was it 81, 82, maybe before he signed. The ethos then was very much on defence, and if we scored a goal, we'd win 1-0. Otherwise, we'd be hell bent on trying to get a 0-0. So he was very sort of defensive minded. Well, Arthur was anyway. And I got on a great run of playing really well, and ended up with 6 clean sheets. Yeah, but I think that was probably 82. I think. And then when Kevin came, the whole situation changed. I mean, when you've got an attacking force, as you have, it just became, the usual cliche. We score one more goal than the other team does. And that's how it was. It changed, turned on its head. And we were beating teams and, people scoring goals, right, left and centre. Great team. I mean, it must have been fantastic to watch. It was from my end anyway, because I did.
I'm just asking you about that because I found it quite interesting at the weekend. I watched Chelsea's game against Aston Villa, and the lad Robert Sanchez in goal for Chelsea, and they said that it was the first time he's kept a clean sheet in 3 seasons, and I thought, well, autumn, winter and half of spring is not bad, but it was actually 3 years since he kept the clean sheet. And this is him playing for Chelsea Football Club. Yeah. And you go on, and when you think about what you did, then the amount of clean sheets, in 1 season is absolutely unbelievable. And it's a great testament that it's still a record this day,
Well, I'm not sure. I think it might have got or equaled last.
I think
year.
it's equal consecutive.
There was a break in the games, and I think Nick Pope, I think he played sort of. That was a break, and Martin Dubravka came in for a game that conceded a goal. And I'm not sure, Joe. To be honest, I mean that was 40 years that lasted. So,
yeah, no problem. I want to talk about Pope. You've just brought him up.
Yeah.
One, your opinion straight away. Can he be England's number one, Kev?
I think the only thing stopping him is his ability to play on the floor.
How important is that for a keeper nowadays?
I don't know. I'm only watching the same as you, and obviously you have a bit of an idea because you played the position. I mean, I used to think I was not bad on my left foot, but stick it on my right foot, and hello in the paddock sort of thing, straight in there, or a wild swing and it's out for a corner. But it's so important now, and I'm just not quite sure that. And I think that's probably one of the things that internationally wise is keeping them back. I mean, you hear the likes of City, Chelsea, they're all signing, Liverpool, they're signing keepers who could be midfield players basically, and that good on the floor. And then you've got this whole thing now of passing it 5 yards, somebody else taking the goal kick and passing it to the goalkeeper 3 yards away, and it's hard to get your head around. And how and where that's come from, and I understand if you're good enough players to play that way, but you see that now. You see that in the second division, and that everybody's wanting to try and do it, and they're getting found out time and time again.
Do you think, Kev, as well? Because I mean, I saw you every other day. You used to get a bag of balls, and you used to have me over the halfway line. And you'd be practicing with your left juke, sometimes after one of your bad injuries as well, with your ankle, because you used to have to wear a rugby boot on your left foot. I remember because I had to clean them. That's why I know. But you used to practice your kicking every single day. And I'd be bringing them down on past the halfway line, whatever, in the opposing penalty area if you were kicking them out your hands. And, you practice and practice and practice. I don't think Nick Pope practices enough on his kicking, I think he can really do more to practice the art of goalkeeping.
I think it's more the touch when if somebody's passing it back to you. Obviously, you're not picking up with your hands now. It's got to be controlled, and you have another touch. And Joe, they must practice it. They will do. I'm convinced that they will, and it'll be a big part of it. If that's identified as a weakness, which we're sort of picking up, he'll see that as well, and so will the coaches and the manager as well. So I think they'll work on that quite a bit. And I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm just saying it's not as good as others, which is what's probably stopping them from getting on to more international levels.
I mean, you just said yourself. Obviously, it's a good point that players now, especially goalkeepers, are classed as they've got to be outfield players. Whereas you used to join in the odd five-a-side. Nowadays, I wonder how much they do in training where they're putting the goalkeepers under pressure, under scrutiny that way. I don't know. What I want to come to, Kev, is that you're seeing much of the side nowadays.
Again, we'll watch them on the telly like everybody else, and we get invited to one or two. But it's very much up and down. Obviously, tonight you're looking at that with some trepidation after you watch Liverpool play and haven't seen them. But we've got a habit of pulling it off against the better sides. The last couple of games we've been poor, I think, and not. It's hard, isn't it? Really, when we seem to do well just before the break, and you're looking forward to them having a rest and coming back, and the lads who were away playing at the Nationals did well, and you come back and you're full of hope for what's going to happen, and then rock up against West Ham and end up losing 2-0. Just didn't look like the application was there. To be fair, it's like you built up, and it's not just quite there for it. They look a bit sloppy and. Like we'll get into some great positions in the balls into the box aren't fantastic. The service is pretty poor. And if that's the case, you're playing against good teams. These are all good teams. There isn't a bad side in the Premier League, to be fair, really, when you look at it. That's why they're there. And so you've always got to show the same application every game you play, obviously, which they want to do, but it just doesn't look like that's happening at the minute. So hopefully it can tonight.
There's a big hoodoo on our backs about bringing a trophy and getting some silverware. I believe, I honestly do, Kev, that this season the Carabao Cup is ours for the taking. You know, I really do. I really do. How do you think we're going to do? Obviously, Brentford next to get into a semi-final, 2 games, and then when we can only beat what's in front of you. And what do you think realistically we're going to do in the league as regarding whereabouts we're going to finish? I mean, it's very tight up there. It's very tight, the league.
Yeah, I would love us to finish top 6. I think we can finish there. Like, no problem at all. I think you've got to stay lucky with injuries. You've got to get a bit of a run going, which I thought we had. And then all of a sudden that seems to have stalled a little bit for a couple of games. Like they're scoring 95 minutes they scored on Saturday, which is 1 point instead of 3, which would have been a great boost going into tonight. But genuinely, I think we've got enough there to finish top 6. What happens in January is another thing. You just never know now. Signings or any. I can't see anybody leaving, Joe. To be fair, I think we're short. As it is in 1 or 2 positions. But not to stop us, and as you say, a cup. But you look at Brentford, you look at their home form, fantastic. Yeah. They haven't just managed.
Best in the league.
Yeah, you're talking about really good players and a great manager. I like him a lot, I think.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be an easy game, but it's a great chance as well.
We've got a couple of questions, Kev, from the fans. Bernard from the Fan, he's always good value. He says, who did Kevin want to be growing up as a goalkeeper? Was it a goalkeeper? I mean, you said you didn't play in goal, you were 11.
Well, I met my hero, played against my hero, who was Pat Jennings. And I know I've told you this before. He always was. And again, he got, obviously Gordon Banks and I've got that same photo of the save in the 70 World Cup in the toilet as it happened. So, big Gordon still. But no, Pat Jennings was always my favourite. And we played Arsenal and we got promoted. We were after 3 games when we got promoted to First Division, and then we played at Arsenal on a Tuesday night. But I ended up after the game getting Pat's autograph. Just went up in the players' lounge and having just played against him and asked him to sign the back of my programme, which I still have. So he's certainly one of the players I admired the most, being a goalkeeper. Yeah, definitely.
So you talked about you played a little bit for Carlisle at the end. Was your manager? Yeah. Am I right in saying it was Bob Stockwell, Kev?
Bob, yeah, I signed when Bob signed me from Newcastle, and again, just a great character. Son man, he's son man. Everything was son man. He used to have a player called Arthur Mann, and he's saying it was Arthur Mann, son man. But he's infamous tale when we played Brighton. Away, and we used to travel everywhere in the coach, there's no flying or trains from Carlisle, all on the bus. And the Brighton manager, Bob had gone on the paper the night before because they were struggling a little bit, and saying if we can't beat these lot, we're not, we're not worth being anywhere. And of course, we traipsed off the pitch after the game, having been stuffed 6-1. And everybody's looking at Bob saying, why did you say that in the paper? If anyone's going to set anybody up to sort of have a go against you, it's somebody saying these aren't very good and we should be beating them. So I travelled all the way back from Brighton on the coach, sort of giving it Bob sort of for saying you shouldn't have said stuff like that, Our mate Bakes played centre half that day, Paul Baker. My God, I bet you wish he hadn't, but that wasn't a good experience. And then having to drive home from Carlisle back across to Ashington here, Bedlington, and so you got back in about 5 or 6 in the morning. Just a nightmare.
Great stuff, Kev. And you obviously played with, you said Pedro. Was Pedro the best player that you played with?
Yes, definitely, without a doubt.
What about the players you played against? Who was the one that like you looked at the opposition and you thought, "Oh my God, I've got to save goals against him today"?
The worst very early on was Joe Jordan. I played again in '77. We had played Man City away on Boxing Day and got beat 5-1, I think. Dennis Chouette, they just ran riot. Joe Royal centre forward. And then we went to Leeds on New Year's Day. And their centre forward was Joe Jordan, an absolute wild man. As far as playing went, lovely man off the pitch and whatever. But obviously once the teeth came out and he got playing, he was just an absolute animal. And we had a lad, David Barton, he made his debut that day against Leeds, and Big Joe just like, they went up for a header together. Dick fell on the floor and Big Joe just like mangled him, stood all over him, stomach, groin, just like basically walked over the top of him. Dick got carried off and he was just like snarling. So anything that came, there was no way he was going for the ball, but whoever he took out in the way at the time was frightening. Of course, he got out on the telly then, so you got away with murder basically.
Kevin, we started talking about you nearly 10 years at the club. Obviously, when Jack got the job, when Arthur left, he was very instrumental in my career. But being an Ashington boy and an Ashington lad yourself, I mean, what happened? What was your relationship with Jack?
It's the same as everybody else's. I'm not sure that he had a great knowledge of who anybody was. Infamous for getting his names mixed up and whatever, and everybody was big-headed. And it changed, obviously, that we were on cloud 9 after getting promotion and Coxie being in charge, and then the next day he's gone, and there just seemed to be a massive change then. Then Jack comes in, and I think, to be fair to us as well, he came in on a basis of, well, I'm not. If this goes wrong, I'm not bothered because I'll be away anyway. I'll give it a go and see how it is. The training routines changed. The stories with kicking balls over the gym roof, all true. Get out the gym. None of this fancy five-a-side stuff. Get outside, and it's going to be long. And it worked for 3 games. We were top of the league, and then people found us out. But I never really had it didn't have a personal relationship with him at all, even though obviously an Ashington lad and everybody thought, oh, Ashington, but not really. And then obviously he had Morris with him, Morris Setters, who was like his kind of mongrel dog who everybody and that was it. So and obviously you had the likes of people leaving, then Terry Mack left. Waddle didn't see sort of that well eye to eye with him, I don't think, and he ended up getting away. I got me free, same time Waddle went off to Spurs. So that was 2 from the same team, me going one way and him just taking off and going the other. So, look, it's their opinion and they can sign or get rid of whoever they want. That wasn't my argument at the time. My argument was how it's done and having spent the amount of time that you had there and what you've given the club, for them at least to have the courtesy of saying this is why. And I mean, I think I was player of the month this season that I got the free. So towards May, April, I ended up being like these Hennessy player of the month things. But there you go. And I don't know to this day the reason behind it. I've never ever been given any reason. And that's 40 years.
Yeah. Kev, couple of your best moments that you ever had in that lovely green shirt that you used to wear?
Well, I've got it again. It's a little photograph hanging here now. It was a save. It's a save against Oldham at home, which was a double save, and it was Oldham, and it'll be one that nobody can mind. But it was like a double save, which I thought was terrific. It happened to be on the Sunday afternoon programme, Granada, called Kickoff, I think it was, Brian Moore. And they had a Save of the Month, that won the Save of the Month on their programme. And then the 12 saves, sorry, not the 12, a save each month for the season got put into a competition. And then ex-England man, Sir Alf Ramsey, chose the winning save, which happened to be mine. So I've got the sort of a presentation sort of plaque with a thing on, that being save of the season for that season, voted for, picked by Sir Alf Ramsey. And the other ones will be penalty saves. I suppose I think I had still a bit of a record, I think, therefore, percentage of penalty saves in games. That one at Carlisle, there was saves Chelsea and various other places. So yeah, they stick in your mind, and that save of the season, like I say, certainly.
And if you had to sum up, Kev, to the fans, I mean, you've done something that Newcastle United fans would give their right arm for to play in this shirt. What would you say to them?
What I say was, I count myself as being very fortunate to have done it. And if anybody has any will to want to go ahead and do it as a kid, then by all means go for it. It's something that I did, and as I said, very fortunate to have done it, and to have played that many games and to have actually been out there and played. It's an absolute honour to have done so, and it'll stick with you for the rest of my days, however many there are left, Joe,
Well, hopefully a lot more, mate. And hey, you'll always be my number one. And it's been an absolute pleasure to interview you today, Kev. I love you dearly. Thanks very much.
Okay,
Kev.
Joe. Bye.